in English. Let's crack it with UPSC CSE with Unacademy. So, good morning, everybody, and we are live now. So, briefly about me, I'm Siddhi Bangard, your educator and mentor. I've appeared in civil services, 4 mains and an interview, and I finally graduated from XLRI Jamshedpur. So, guys, this is about briefly about Unacademy. At Unacademy, you get daily live classes, live tests and quizzes, and also PDF of all the notes. You get structured courses. That means all your courses are aligned to the syllabus of mains and prelims. And unlimited access. That means with one subscription of Unacademy, you get access to more than 200 courses that we have on our platform. So you don't have to pay separately for each of the courses. We have some of the top educators in the country. That means you get to study from the best, and you also get to choose from the best. You can choose from which educators you want to be taught by and how you want to be taught by. So there's a live interaction. A lot of my students on Unacademy already know about it. We teach you all the subjects which are relevant to UPSC CSE, starting from prelims right till the mains. And for the interviews also, we have started off a lot of courses which actually also make you do the interview preparation. And in times like these, all the preparation has to go online. So we are already doing that for you. And everything is being done at a very, very reasonable price. For a 1 year course schedule or for 1 year subscription, our prices are just under 40,000. If you use my code SBUS, then you get additional 10% off, and obviously personal mentoring by me. And we have no cost EMI on our 6 month, 12 month and 24 month subscription. And for a 2 year subscription, our prices are less than 58,000. If you use my code SBUS, you get an instant 10% off and obviously personal mentoring by me. And we have no cost EMI available for our 6 month, 12 month and 24 months subscription. That means you don't have to pay interest on the installments that you pay to us. Now, let's begin today. Today's India IR series, it's part 5. We have already completed till part 4. So what have we discussed so far? Today we'll be discussing India-Bhutan relationships, and in the upcoming lecture in Eastern Neighbours part 6, we will be discussing India-Bangladesh relationships, and it will actually complete our series of discussing India and its Eastern neighbours. Why? I'll tell you. So, about India, I have already discussed in all of my previous sessions. I keep it as a reference slide whenever we want to compare India with its Eastern neighbours. So, let's come briefly here. We have already discussed China, we have already discussed Myanmar, we have discussed Nepal, we have discussed Sri Lanka when we compare. So this is India's eastern neighbors, including India's maritime neighbors. So today we'll discuss Bhutan, and with Bangladesh we'll complete our series on India's eastern neighbors, right? So part 6 we'll complete that, and then onwards we'll talk about India, Russia, India, Middle East and the rest of the Far East. So this is the incoming part of the series. So that makes us that in almost 10 to 15 lectures we'll complete in the India-Asia series. So by July we should be done with the entire India-Asia series. Alright guys, let's see where Bhutan is on a smaller map and then on a larger map. Bhutan is a completely landlocked country, and do you know there is a grouping in the UN for landlocked countries, and Bhutan is not just a member of the Bureau of landlocked countries but also a head of it. So that's actually funny. Now here I'll use a different pen so that I can make you see this clearly. This area, so Bhutan is landlocked on every side. Sikkim on the left hand side, China or Tibet on the northern side, and again India on the east and the southern side, and Bangladesh. Sorry, not Bangladesh, but India, China and again India. Now, because of its landlocked situation, there are a lot of implications for Bhutan. Please ignore this faux pas. It was inadvertently done by me. There's no Burma here, it's only India, Bhutan here. Okay. And let's look at the position here. So you can clearly see here which are Bhutan's neighbors. So Bhutan, the only sensible neighbor that Bhutan has is India. And because of its landlocked nature, Bhutan does not have an air force or a navy, because it doesn't make sense for it to have a navy because it's completely landlocked, and it doesn't even have its own air force. So for air force or for navy purposes, it utilizes its defense corporation relationships with India. And you will be surprised to know that since 1959, when Dalai Lama actually moved to India and there was an overnight Indo-Tibetan uprising, Bhutan had closed its boundaries with China, so it was effectively cut off from China. And each one of you, we actually know very, very less about Bhutan. So it's not that it's from the present only or it's in the modern days only. Bhutan has been a very, very historically reticent state. It does not like to communicate much with the rest of the world. All right. So that's why Bhutan has been, it's a royal kingdom which has been nestled in the Himalayas, but it is very, very segregated from the rest of the world. In fact, I'll reveal today some very, very interesting facts about Bhutan. First of all, this is the emblem of the royal seat of Bhutan. You will be surprised to know that this emblem or this throne piece is actually kept on the seat of the Dalai Lama, where Dalai Lama sits, to show that they show so much respect to the Buddhist people or the Buddhist religion. The country is overwhelmingly Buddhist. Now, the economy. So, Bhutan's biggest money earner is it's exporting hydroelectricity to India. That is how it earns maximum amount of money, and it has also signed a 10,000 megawatt agreement with India, that India will be actually importing 10,000 megawatt of electricity from Bhutan by 2021. Other major economic occupations in Bhutan are agriculture, forestry, and tourism. In fact, you will be surprised to know that Bhutan is a biocapacity reserve. Now, what is a biocapacity? Biocapacity is that the amount of resources, non-renewable resources, you can generate out of your bioresources in excess of your ecological footprint. So Bhutan is one of those few countries, it ranks number 4 on the entire world biocapacity list, which has a biocapacity reserve. Bhutanese people have this concept of gross national happiness linked to their biocapacity reserve only, because these people, they don't believe in material achievements. They don't want to disturb their nature for their material gains. And that's why, even though after having a lot of mineral resources or after having coal reserves, Bhutan does not conduct a lot of mining activities. It is actually exploring the hydroelectricity initiatives but not conducting any mining activities. And it has preserved its biodiversity to a great, great extent, and it's one of the biodiversity hotspots recognized by the UNESCO. However, as much as it is recognized for its biodiversity, Bhutan does not have a single site in the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So it's still trying for a World Heritage Site status, but none of its heritage sites are actually listed in the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. About politics, so it has never been colonized in its entire history, and that's why it was having such a problem recognizing China's sovereignty over Tibet and hence over Bhutan. So Bhutan at once in the very, very ancient times was a part of Tibet, and in fact it was a Tibetan king who introduced Bhutan to Buddhism, and Bhutan follows Mahayana form of Buddhism. However, this small country made very, very progressive steps towards democracy, and in 2008 converted from absolute monarchy to constitutional monarchy. I'll explain you what is that. So it's not a republic yet. It does not have a elected leader when it comes to the head of the state. So that still remains with the monarch. The present king Jigme Khesar Wangchuk, he still remains the monarch. However, it does have a parliament, and they do have a procedure to impeach their king by using two-thirds majority in their national assembly, which is their parliament. So they moved towards democracy in 2008, and India has been a big supporter of democracy in Bhutan. The country is overwhelmingly made of Buddhists. 74.5% people are Buddhist and 22% people are Hindus. And actually, this religion game actually helps us more get in touch with Bhutan. Not only we have been a cradle for Buddhism, we are also overwhelmingly a Hindu nation. So that really helps us connect in terms of culture and religious ties with Bhutan. And you will be surprised to know it's one of those countries in South Asia that is actually a theocracy. It was actually ruled by Buddhist monks, and it is only later that a monarchy came in. So theocracy is ruled by religious people or ruled by religion. So it was earlier a theocracy, and now it has become, then it became a monarchy or absolute monarchy, and now it has become a constitutional monarchy with still very, very strong ties to religion. Socially, it has ancient ties with India, definitely. So Bhutan, if you see its position in the map, you will see that it actually lies on the ancient Silk Route, which was Chinese Silk Route to actually export silk. So it lies on that trade route, and that's why it has ancient ties with India. It follows Mahayana Buddhism. It actually gave the concept of gross happiness index. Now you'll be surprised to know that the concept of gross happiness index is as old as 1979. So the then monarch of Bhutan, Jigme Wangchuk, he actually gave the concept of gross happiness index in a press interview. He said, it's not important how much a country produces. What is important is how much is a country happy. So since then on, following till 2011, the UN General Assembly finally gave out the war cry to all the nations to actually be more like Bhutan, to give more importance to gross national happiness rather than gross domestic product. And in 2012, the United Nations came up with the first gross national happiness index report, and since then we have been having gross national happiness index report each year from the United Nations. And interestingly, it's not Bhutan that's the happiest nation in the world. For 3 times in a row, since if you go back from 2020 to back to the 3 years, Finland has been leading the gross national happiness index, and Finland has been number one in gross happiness index around the world. So that means from 2018 to 2020, Finland has been winning the gross happiness index thing, and it has been ranked as number one. Another surprise for Bhutan is, as I was talking about its reticence, Bhutan was one of the last countries which actually introduced TV and internet. So it introduced TV only in 1999 as a part of the reforms of opening up its economy, because they were very worried about their culture being completely tarnished or washed away by TV and internet. So even then the monarch actually told its people that, look, we would want you to interact with TV and internet as little as possible, because our traditions are very important, the way of life is very important, we should preserve that. Geographically, Bhutan comes under South Asia, so it's a South Asian neighbor of India. Its area, as you can see, it's minuscule, it's 0.04 million square kilometer, alright. It's almost twice or thrice the size of Sikkim, not more than that, even if you see geographically. So very, very small state, but still acting as a buffer between India and China. And that is one of the reasons it was never colonized, even by the British, or even it was not mixed into the Indian state even after independence. Why? Because it was kept as a buffer state. Just like Nepal was kept as a buffer state between India and China, so was Bhutan kept as a buffer state between India and China. It is surrounded by Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, West Bengal, so 4 Indian states, and Tibet. And it has been a founder of international organizations like SAARC and BIMSTEC. So you will be surprised to know, even though United Nations is such a big organization, still Bhutan became a part of United Nations only in 1971. Now, let's move on. What is the importance of Bhutan for India? I hope I'm completely audible and visible, folks. Is my voice extremely clear? My voice might be a little hoarse because I'm a little ill, but am I completely audible and visible? Good morning, everybody. Happy to see all of you. Is my voice completely audible? And am I completely visible? All right. Guys, the geographical significance of Bhutan is, oh, thank you. Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you, Vivek. Nice to see you both of you here. Hope you're enjoying the class. Bhutan actually shares its borders, as I just told you, with all the northeastern states, which are of very much huge significance to us because of the insurgency going on there, and that it is relatively cut from mainland India. So we do not want any sort of disturbances there. So a peaceful northeastern border is extremely important for us. And nestled within the Himalayas, Bhutan serves as a buffer state between India and China, about which I've already talked. And obviously, security of Bhutan's present borders, especially the western border, that means western border means the border that lies with Sikkim, is very, very important for us, so that Bhutan has peaceful relationships inside of Bhutan, so that no kind of terrorist activity or no kind of disturbance actually spills over to India, because we are neighbors. Economic significance: Bhutan not only provides a market for Indian commodities, but it is also a destination for Indian investment. In fact, Bhutan is the largest recipient of Indian aid. And in fact, we provide aid to Bhutan in 60 to 40 ratio. 60% of it, we loan it out to Bhutan, and 40% of it, we actually give as grants to Bhutan for its development. And for India, Bhutan is a rich source of hydropower. So it exports hydropower to the bordering states of Sikkim or northeastern areas, so that these states can actually grow. The energy or the source of power is not a problem for them to grow economically. The political significance is of course very huge, because Bhutan, by its very nature, if it is unstable, it can provide a safe haven to anti-India activities and anti-India militant groups. So that's one. Second thing, it's a buffer state between India and China. So there's a huge, huge political significance that we attach to Bhutan. Let's move on. So I wanted to show you the internal structure of Bhutan. So this is a political map of Bhutan. Some of the important regions that we are going to actually talk about today are: Thimphu is the capital of Bhutan. All right, it lies along a river, Thangchu, and then you have the Paro River Valley. It is along the river Paro or Pochu. It's a very, very famous, very, very ancient valley. Actually, it is one of those valleys from where Tibet used to actually invade Bhutan. And Paro Valley is also very beautiful, very picturesque, one of the main tourist attractions in Bhutan. Also, it harbors Bhutan's only international airport, which is in Paro. So, Paro International Airport is one which actually links Bhutan with the rest of the world. We will also study about Chukha, because there is a Chukha hydropower plant that has been developed by India. Punakha, so it was only because of the Treaty of Punakha that Thimphu or Bhutan was recognized as a monarchy by the British back in 1910. There is another interesting fact related to Treaty of Punakha, which I will discuss when we progress further. So these are some of the important areas in Bhutan about which we'll be discussing today. So keep watching. Guys, any doubts so far? Anything that you want to ask from whatever I've taught till now, or are we good to go and I should continue? Okay. We'll start from 17th century till the 1950s first, and then we'll go from 1950s to the present time in Bhutan's history. So, early in the 17th century, I will not be talking about before what happened in 17th century, because there were a lot of fiefdoms or private kingdoms that were running as a part of Bhutan. It's only in 17th century that Bhutan existed as a patchwork of minor warring fiefdoms. So, all the kingdoms were fighting amongst. Jitendra, I will brief that in the last. Alright, till now we have only discussed small details about Bhutan. Alright, good morning Amit. So we are actually starting right from here only. So Bhutan's history is actually our starting point for today's lecture. So even if you understand this, you will completely understand what I've talked so far, because I'll be repeating it. Alright, and in the end I'll once again repeat the first slide for you. Alright, okay. So Bhutan actually existed as a lot of small kingdoms fighting each other, just like what was India before British came in. So British were the people who actually kind of unified India completely, right? Oh, sorry, Jatin, but your name is showing Jitender here. So I couldn't really recognize. All right. Now, it was actually unified by a Tibetan Lama. So, a Tibetan person, he came into Bhutan and he became a military leader. He was Nagwang Namgyal. He actually unified the entire Bhutan and he was from Tibet. He had fled from persecution in Tibet, so he came here. At that point of time, back in the 17th century, Tibet was a very, very strong and autonomous kingdom. It was not a part of China then. All right, Jatin, fine. He died, and in fact, such was his influence in uniting Bhutan that even when he died in 1651, his passing away was kept a secret for 54 years. Has that ever happened in the history anywhere else around the world? No, it eventually comes out, but his passing was kept a secret for 54 years to maintain Bhutan's consolidation. However, even after keeping Bhutan consolidated for a while, Bhutan finally lapsed into internal conflict once the news spread that Nagwang Namgyal was no more and their leader was no more. So Bhutan lapsed into internal conflict once again. However, once again, in the 18th century, Bhutanese actually decided to invade and occupy the kingdom of Kuch Bihar, which is in India, which is in northern India, lining the West Bengal boundary. So they decided to invade the kingdom of Kuch Bihar in India. At that point of time, the British India or East India Company was actually ruling Bengal or ruling the rest of the country. So Kuch Bihar asked the East India Company for help, and the East India Company easily relied and easily gave in, and the East India Company decided to help Kuch Bihar to fight Bhutanese invasions, right? So just like Nepal was very aggressive during the time of Gurkhas and they tried to attack India and then the British had to throw them out. Similarly with Kuch Bihar, the Bhutanese actually tried to be very aggressive with India. The British weren't the first to actually go and attack Bhutan. It was the Bhutanese people who actually attacked India, and then East India Company had to come to the rescue of Kuch Bihar. Then along with the East India Company, Kuch Bihar managed to defeat Bhutan, and the Treaty of Sinchala was signed in 1864-65, and Bhutan ceded the Bengal Duars to India. So what is Duar? Duar is again a Terai region which is found in the West Bengal boundary with Bhutan, and it's a very, very fertile plain. So this plain actually lies in the foothills of Himalayas but above the basin of Brahmaputra that flows in Assam. So these are called the Bengal Duars. It's a very, very fertile area, very, very rich in aluminium soil. So it's used for growing a lot of crops. Now, in 1870s, 18s, a new king actually came up on the horizons of Bhutan. As Bhutan was already reeling under a lot of regional conflict, finally again somebody could come up and unify Bhutan again. That was the person called Ogwin Wangchuk. He was again a warrior. Now this person was then unanimously in 1907 chosen as a king. This Wangchuk Dynasty is the present ruling dynasty of Bhutan, which has given it not one but five monarchs, presently ruled by a very, very young king. In fact, we'll be talking about that king in detail. He is that king who is one of the youngest in the history of the world, and he is still ruling Bhutan and he is ruling it very, very well. He is very much well known internationally. His marriage to Jetson Pema, his love of life, was very, very famous and was attended by a lot of dignitaries around the world. He actually ushered in the final democratic path of Bhutan back in 2008. So let's talk about it further. Now from 1950s to present. In 1910, as I was telling you, I will talk about the Treaty of Punakha. Finally, Bhutan was recognized as a monarchy after the recognition of Ogwen Wangchuk as a king. The British were the first one to recognize Bhutan as a monarchy, and they signed a Treaty of Punakha with Bhutan, making it a subsidiary alliance of India and giving it a status of Indian princely state. Now, however, Bhutan was given the status of a princely state. This actually did not change the foreign affairs or the state of affairs at Bhutan much, because it was already a very reticent state. So its relationship with Tibet never changed much, or its relationship with India also never changed much. So for Bhutan, it was no change at all. However, with the tag of Indian princely state, Bhutan had a fear that post-independence, India might actually involve Bhutan into its own sphere of influence and make it as one of the states of India. However, India was wise enough to not to do that, and in fact, right after independence in 1949, India signed a treaty similar to that of 1910 with Bhutan and said that they will have power over Bhutan's foreign relationships, yet Bhutan's sovereignty will be intact, so that Bhutan can control all its domestic affairs, but its foreign affairs will be regulated by India, just like it was in the case of Britain, which the treaty that was signed with Britain in 1910. Are we clear so far? Any doubts? No, Navakiran, no PDF is available for this session. As of now, no PDF is available. Only once the series is complete, I will be giving out the PDF. Alright? Okay. So, after this treaty was signed, in 1953, King Jigme Dorji Wangchuk, who was the ruler then, he established country's legislature, which was the 130-member National Assembly about which I was talking. So, the National Assembly is the parliament of Bhutan, but still, it was still an absolute monarchy. However, King Jigme Dorji Wangchuk tried to promote a more democratic form of government. So, since 1953, which was the first step to actually promote democratic form of government in Bhutan, the kingdom has been only going or moving forward with its democratic designs, and India has been a big supportive of it to actually go further and democratize the country further. In 1971, there was another international development. Bhutan was admitted to the UN. In 1999, the government lifted a ban on television and internet, as I just told you, making Bhutan one of the last countries to actually introduce television. In 2005, a new constitution was presented by Bhutan. In fact, the then king actually introduced the constitutionalism, and first national parliamentary elections happened in December 2007 and March 2008, and India was a big supporter of that, and in fact, India helped Bhutan conduct those elections in a free and fair manner. And finally, on 6 November 2008, 28-year-old Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk became the youngest crowned king anywhere in the world, and he overtook the absolute monarchy from his father. His father abdicated the throne in favor of his young son, and he became the youngest monarch, and he was also the one to lead Bhutan into a monarchy or a constitutional monarchy. So this completed Bhutan's shift from being in India's princely state to being an absolute monarchy to finally being a constitutional monarchy, which it is at present. So let me talk a little bit about all these kings who have influenced Bhutan so far. So the Wangchuk Dynasty. The kings of Bhutan are also known as Druk Gyalpos or Dragon Kings. Druk in Bhutanese language actually stands for dragon. So all the kings of Bhutan are known as Dragon Kings. So it is known as the Thunder King of Dragon. Alright. And all the people, all the subjects of Bhutan call themselves as dragon people. So who have been these kings? So this was the first king, Ungyal Wangchuk, who actually unified Bhutan in 1907. This is Jigme Wangchuk, who actually is known as the father of the Bhutanese nation. He was the one who actually brought in democracy and set up the National Assembly back in 1953. Alright, so Dorji Wangchuk, he is known as the father of the Bhutanese nation. And our present Jigme Khesar Namchuk, you can see how handsome the young king is. In fact, there is a very famous story about him. So back in 2012, sorry, not even 2012, back in somewhere in 1990s, when there was a 60th anniversary of the Thailand royal family being celebrated, he was one of the few royal people who actually attended that ceremony, and being the youngest of the royal representatives in Thailand, he was an instant hit. All the ancient women were throwing themselves on him, and women were very intrigued by his mystique. He is considered to be a very, very handsome young prince. He's an Oxford graduate and extremely intelligent person with a very, very positive outlook. However, he finally met Jetson Pema and married her back in 2011. So he actually declared it in public, and his marriage was one of the very hugely covered with Bhutanese media. It was hugely covered by Bhutanese media. Obviously, their king was getting a queen, and they have been proven to be a very, very wonderful couple. They have stood together for a long time, and they have furthered democracy in Bhutan. And very recently, in March 2020 only, the prince had his second child, and they actually welcomed their second child on Facebook. So they have now become very, very, from a reticent country which had recently introduced internet and TV in 1999, to now actually welcoming the one more royal guest on Facebook. That's how far the monarchy has come. It was the king only who shared on his official Facebook page the picture of their newborn child. This is the picture of their newborn child here. Let's go back to India-Bhutan relationships history. All right? Okay. So, we'll go from the ancient ties, but there's not much of the ancient ties. We actually came into ties with Bhutan much after the British left Bhutan. All right. So, India-Bhutan relations actually date to antiquity. That's because of the ancient Silk Route that was there. And Mahayana Buddhism is the primary religion of Buddhist people, or the Bhutanese people. Just give me a second, folks. I think something's wrong with this. Yes. As I've already told you, British actually changed the status of Bhutan. It recognized Bhutan as a monarchy, but gave it the status of a princely status of Bhutan and took it under subsidiary alliance. Now, do you guys remember subsidiary alliance was forged by whom? Subsidiary alliance was forged by whom? Which British general or British viceroy actually gave the treaty or the concept of subsidiary alliance? Can anybody tell me? Share it in the live comments and let me see how much you know about it. And as of now, at present, yes, Arjun, I will be actually taking that up. Let us complete the history first, and then we'll be taking about how India actually helps Bhutan in its foreign relations. We'll be talking about the Doklam crisis in detail. That's the recent one that has happened. Okay. So India actually shares a very, very special relationship with Bhutan. We have open borders with Bhutan. Bhutanese people do not require a legal permit to work in India. Indian people do not require a legal permit to work in Bhutan. So, and we actually help Bhutan maintain an army. We train its army. We are its navy, and we are its air force. So for any air force or naval related purposes, it's India that actually helps out Bhutan. And India actually got into a special relationship with Bhutan back in 1949 when it signed that treaty of friendship. So at that point of time, Bhutan agreed to let India guide its foreign policy. That means it was kind of an understanding that they will take care of the domestic affairs, but for the entire foreign affairs, it will be India which will be actually negotiating for Bhutan at the international arena. All right? Or in other terms, both nations will closely consult each other to guide their foreign and defense affairs, just like it was the case with British India. They weren't concerned when India was given a dominion status. British weren't concerned about what goes on domestically, but the foreign affairs and the defense affairs still remained with the British and not with India. And the Treaty of 1949 also established free trade and extradition protocols with Bhutan. So as of now, the present status of Bhutan is that it is a protected state of India, but not a protectorate of India. What is the difference between a protectorate and a protected state? So with the British India, Bhutan was actually a protectorate of India. What does that mean? It means that British actually recognized its influence or its autonomy when it came to domestic affairs, but its foreign affairs were completely controlled by the British. However, it was a part of the Indian territory. It was a protectorate. It was a part of the Indian territory, and it had no own sovereignty. All right. However, in a protected state, We still kind of negotiate their foreign affairs, but we do recognize that Bhutan is a sovereign state. We do not have suzerainty over Bhutan. So there's a difference between being a protectorate of India or being a protected state of India. Sikkim was a protectorate of India till the time in 1975 we actually went ahead and occupied Sikkim, or Sikkim was made an Indian state. Till that time, Sikkim Kingdom was a protectorate of India, but Bhutan is a protected state of India. It is not a protectorate of India. All right? Yes, it was Lord Dalhousie, Arjun. You're right. It was Lord Dalhousie who actually gave this policy of what do you say, subsidiary alliance. All right? Okay, guys. Let's move on. So this is the picture from 1949 when these people actually signed the Treaty of Friendship. So it was signed between Sir Harishwar Dayal and Gonzim Tobige Dorji at the Government House in Darjeeling. So that's the Friendship Treaty. We again renewed this treaty in 2007, and there's an interesting story why we actually signed up. We actually renewed this Treaty of Friendship with Bhutan in 2007. There's a very, very interesting story behind it, which I will tell you as we progress. Now, between 1950s to 1972, at that point of time, there is an interesting thing which happened. In 1962, India lost the war to China, right? So, Bhutan, which till now thought that India was very powerful and India could actually help out Bhutan, it started doubting Indian abilities. Okay. And at that point of time, it said India is not capable of defending us. And they got really, really scared. So they decided that it is time to show the world that we are an independent nation and we are not under Indian influence. They were fearful that China might attack them. So if they showed some independence from India, China might get friendly towards them and not attack them. Because China had recently gobbled up, in 1950s, China had recently gobbled up the Tibetan region. So it was very, very afraid. So it decided to assert its independence at the international arena, even though it has signed the Treaty of Friendship in 1949 with India. So Bhutan on its own decided to join the United Nations in 1971. It gave a recognized status to Bangladesh when it was formed in 1971. Now ideally this should only be have the job of India to do that, because India was controlling its foreign affairs. But Bhutan decided to go ahead and recognize Bangladesh. It signed a new trade agreement with other countries or with India in 1972. Now in that trade agreement, it actually got an exemption for its export duties on goods. So at that point of time in 1972, India was also very wary of losing Bhutan. So we signed another trade agreement with Bhutan in 1972. And we said that for any export that you do to other countries other than India, through Indian states or through Indian territory, or any imports that you do to India through the third countries, we will provide it completely duty free to you because of your landlocked status. We tried to influence Bhutan, but to no avail. Bhutan also decided to exert its independent stance, and it exhibited so at the Non-Aligned Movement Conference that happened in Havana, Cuba in 1979. It went ahead and voted against India. Also, it voted with China and some Southeast Asian nations in allowing Cambodia's Khmer Rouge to have access to the Cuban conference or the non-aligned conference. Why were we not allowing Cambodia? Because of the Cambodian genocide that was going at that point of time. So we didn't want Cambodia to be a part of the non-aligned movement. Between 2003 and 2004, the Royal Bhutanese Army helped India in conducting operations against ULFA, or the United Liberation Front of Assam, to fight insurgency on its soil against the territory of India. Now, why did they come back in 2007? So, back in 2005, China actually decided to do an incursion into Bhutanese territory. So, China and Bhutan have some dispute over their land boundaries, and Doklam is one of them, and that's why the Doklam crisis actually happened. So, when in 2005, Chinese made incursions into Bhutanese territory, it was then that Bhutan got really, really scared of China, and by that time, India had become very, very powerful. So that time Bhutan came running back to India and then decided that now it's time to have a new treaty of friendship. However, by this time, India has also understood that we cannot have a foreign affairs sovereignty over Bhutan. We have to give Bhutan complete sovereignty so that Bhutanese people trust us. So at that point of time, a new treaty was negotiated following back from the 1949. So some of the terms were kept similar, but a very, very major chunk of the term was actually changed. So now Bhutan was not supposed to take guidance from India on its foreign policy, and it had broader sovereignty than it had in 1949. So that means now Bhutan, if it wanted to import any arms and ammunitions, it did not require India's permission, which it did earlier, because the foreign affairs and the defense affairs were completely guided by India. Are we clear so far, guys? Is everything clear? Any doubts so far? All right. Let's move on to the next topic. So how did democracy happen in Bhutan? In 2005 or in early 2000s, Bhutan actually said that, we want to become more democratic. India supported Bhutan in its democratic movement, and India actually trained Bhutan in how to go about having a parliament or having elections. India supported both in terms of human resources, moral support and political support towards Bhutanese democracy. Bhutan actually now has 16 entry and exit points in India for its trade with third world or any other third country. So the only exception being PRC. For trade with PRC, we have not given any entry or exit point to Bhutan to trade from within the Indian boundary. And India has also signed an agreement with Bhutan that we will be importing approximately minimum of 10,000 megawatts of electricity from Bhutan by 2021. As I've already told you, Bhutan's economy also runs on exporting hydropower to India in a major manner. 2014 onwards, that is when Modi came into power. So for our Prime Minister, the first destination post his swearing in was Bhutan. He went to Bhutan first, signaling that Bhutan and India have a very, very special relationship. And at that point of time in 2014, he actually inaugurated the Bhutanese Supreme Court, which was built with the help of India. In 2016, Bhutan also went ahead and re-established diplomatic relations with China, which it had closed back in 1960s. So it again, Bhutan and China, they went to each other's nations and re-established their diplomatic relations. They told each other that, we will work in a friendly manner towards each other, and we will try to resolve our border disputes. Now, can you see the constant flip-flop between Bhutan and China? You will become more aware of it when I talk about the Doklam crisis, that how Bhutan-China relationship has been an off and on one. Whenever Bhutan wants to play the China card, it actually goes and plays around with China. China also obliges whenever it wants to play Bhutan against India. But finally, eventually what happens is Bhutan has to return back to India, because China obviously cannot be trusted. And similar things happened. In 2016, diplomatic relations with China was re-established by Bhutan. And in 2017, the Doklam crisis happened. So China has not only cheated us, it keeps on cheating all the other nations it has diplomatic relations with. Now, as you can see, democracy in Bhutan. So the monks were voting. They waited in lines and they voted in this Himalayan region. And India said that now you will know what a democracy is like. You will not have one king. You will now have a lot of kingmakers in your polity, because a lot of people will decide the fate of the next government. All right. So what are the areas of cooperation between Bhutan and India? First of all, let's talk about the trade. So as I just told you, we have a trade and transit agreement with Bhutan going back to 1972, and it was last renewed in November 2016. So we not only renewed, so there have been two treaty renewals. One is that of the 1949 treaty. It was renewed in 2007. All right. Another one is the 1972 trade treaty, which was renewed in 2016. All right. So there is a free trade regime between the two countries, and India also gives the least developed countries benefits to Bhutan. India is Bhutan's largest trading partner, as is to be expected. And in the period between January to June, that is the first 6 months of 2018, The trade between two countries, though very minuscule, is very significant. It stood at 4,000 crores. Major exports from India to Bhutan are mineral products, machinery, FMCG goods, mechanical appliances, electrical equipments, whereas major items of import are electricity and some cement. All right. Now, let's look at India-Bhutan's trade vis-a-vis India-Bhutan-China trade. So, when you see it, Bhutan-India trade is close to $0.96 billion as of 2018. And Bhutan-China trade is only $0.001 billion. So, that is why this is one of those few countries which is still shielded from Chinese influence. All right. And it's a very important thing that it actually remains that way. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of Chinese interference in Bhutan, and Bhutan is such a small landlocked country that it will not be able to take pressure from two big huge neighbors, India and China together. So it's actually good for us that right now Bhutan and China are not engaging much, and after the Doklam crisis, Bhutan is still in a state of shock that how it all happened. So they are still not warming up to the Chinese. All right. Let's come to the water resources part. So India actually plays a very important role in development of hydropower projects in India. In fact, I'll show you a map here. These are all these. This is a map of hydropower projects in in Bhutan. So you can see there are so many of them. Close to 50 of them can already be seen on the screen. All of them are being actually developed with the help of India. India is funding them in some or the other way. It's only a very few smaller hydropower stations that are being built with the help of some of the European nations. For example, the Basochu plant is actually being built or has been built with the help of Austria. There are very few of them. Almost all these hydropower plants are being built with the help of India, and there are so many of them. So, Bhutan and India, water resources is one of the major areas where Bhutan and India cooperate. All right. And recently, India actually inaugurated the Mangdechu 720 megawatt power plant in Bhutan. So the Indian Prime Minister went there in 2019 and inaugurated this hydropower project. The Tata Power project in Bhutan is still one of the largest. It is 1020 megawatt power project in Bhutan. It has been made in alliance with the Tata company, and in fact it is said that during 2007 Bhutan was the fastest growing economy of the world at 22% per annum growth, and it was solely because the Tata Power was inaugurated then, and it led to a huge rise in its energy production, its export to the energy to India, and a lot of industrial activity started happening in Bhutan. So at that point of time, it was recognized as one of the fastest growing economies when the international arena was still reeling under a lot of economic crisis or the subprime loan crisis. And 2006 agreement we signed with Bhutan, as I've already told you, we have decided to import a minimum of 10,000 megawatts electricity from Bhutan by the year 2021. There is also a joint group of experts on flood management between India and Bhutan, as a lot of riverine rivers actually flow from Bhutan to Sikkim or from Bhutan to India. Now, what are the three major hydropower projects, or what are we doing in the hydropower arena? So there are 5 run of the river schemes that we are having with Bhutan. The question on what are run of the river dams was actually asked in one of the mains exam in 2012 and 13. So I want you to actually go and look for it in Google, that what are run of the river dam schemes. So we have the Tala scheme, we have the Chuka hydropower plant, the Dagachu hydropower plant, Basochu hydropower plant, and Kurichu hydropower plants as of now running inside Bhutan. These are big mega power projects. 3 others are still in making. The Dagachu run of the river scheme is very famous. It began operation in 2015, but it's a milestone project in many ways. So it's a first in Bhutan to export power exclusively to India. The others actually export power to other nations also in close proximity to Bhutan. Also, the Tata Power has signed a power purchase agreement for this electricity for 25 years and will export all electrically generated electricity at this site to India. Also, Dagachu is the first cross-border project that is registered under the UN Clean Development Mechanism. Since it's producing renewable power, it is the first cross-border project that has been registered under the UN Clean Development Mechanism. So that's a very, very interesting happening. Now let's look at all the projects that I was talking about. Mangdechu has been recently inaugurated in 2019 by the Indian Prime Minister. He went to Bhutan and inaugurated this. This is a 720 megawatt project, right? It is here. Then Korechu is a 60 megawatt project. It is here. Chukha, as I was talking about, is a 336 megawatt project which was inaugurated way back. Dagachu again 140 plus 126. So there are two power plants for Dagachu. Tala is here, which is the largest mega power project still now, 1020 megawatt. It's at the borders between India and Sikkim. And the Sankosh, it's another facility that is coming up. It's still in the making. It will be the largest. Once it is completely made, the Sankosh hydropower project will be the largest in Bhutan. It will be a 2500 megawatt power project. Yes, I will do that, Arjun. I will show you the pie chart. Here, can you see the pie chart? Arjun? This is the pie chart. Bhutan is at 0.96 and with India $0.96 billion and with China it is 0.01, right? Alright. Now, let's move on. Areas of cooperation, what are we doing in connectivity? So, Bhutan has a very, very mountainous terrain. So, it's very difficult to build railways, alright? And since it does not have any access to sea, so we can't even build a sea connectivity link like we did with Myanmar, the Kaladan multimodal project, where we are accessing our own northeast via sea. We are going from Kolkata to the Kaladan river in Myanmar and then finally to Manipur. So this kind of thing can happen with Bhutan. However, we do have plans. Indian Railways has actually signed up an agreement in 2005 to link southern Bhutan to the vast Indian railway network. So Hashimara in West Bengal is actually the closest railway station to Bhutan. So we are trying to set up a 18 kilometer railway line in Bhutan, in southern Bhutan, and link it to Hashimara in India so that it can be connected to the railway network with the rest of India. And that will actually help build a lot of connectivity. You're welcome, Arjun. Now, development assistant. As I told you, Bhutan is India's largest aid recipient. In fact, since the first 5-year plan of Bhutan launched in 1961, India has been extending support to Bhutan's 5-year plans, and even recently, India has allotted 4,500 crore to Bhutan's 12th 5-year plan. Now, we no more have a finance planning commission, we no more have 5-year planning plans, but Bhutan took the 5-year planning from us and it still runs it. And in fact, you will be surprised to know that 25% of the budgetary expenditure of Bhutan is actually taken care of by the Ministry of External Affairs. So that's the extent of aid we provide to Bhutan, and that's why the special relationship status that we have given to Bhutan in our foreign policies. And India is of course Bhutan's largest development partner. Let's move on to the aid flow. So the aid flow to Bhutan is the highest. This is the snapshot that was shared during the budget when the budget 2019-20 was declared. So you can see progressively in the last decade Bhutan received approximately 32,280 crores of money. In 2018-19 again Bhutan was the largest recipient of Indian aid at 2,500 or 2,500 crores, and now the Bhutan aid has only been raised by 26% to 2,800 crores in 2019-20. So it still remains a major partner in our aid flowing to Bhutan. The second ones have been changing, but the first one has always been Bhutan, and that's a proof of our special relationship with Bhutan. Mauritius comes a close second, Nepal a close third, Maldives fourth, Africa fifth, Myanmar sixth, and Afghanistan seventh. Alright. Let's move on to other areas of cooperation. So defense, almost 2,000 people from the Indian military training team are permanently stationed in Bhutan to train the Royal Bhutan Army. Now you will be surprised to know how many people are there in the Royal Bhutan Army. So there are 16,000 people. So 2,000 people are already there to train these 16,000 people, the Royal Bhutan Army, to actually help India cooperate in the insurgency operations which we take out in the Bhutan. As a landlocked country, Bhutan has no navy, it has no air force or any army aviation corps. So Bhutan completely relies on Eastern Air Command of India, of the East Indian Air Force, for its air assistance, and for any naval related purposes also it completely relies on India. Education and culture, almost 4,000 of Bhutanese students are anytime studying in India under various scholarship programs that are provided by Government of India or are enrolled in various Indian universities at any point of time. In fact, both the Queen of Bhutan right now, Queen Jetsun Pema, and even the King, they have studied in India at some point of time. Queen Jetsun Pema actually studied at the Lawrence School in Himachal Pradesh in India. Alright, and from there on she moved to London to study in the Regency College of London, where she actually met the prince, the present Prince Jingme Kesar Wangchuk. Also, India and Bhutan have regular cultural exchanges taking place between the two countries. In fact, we also have a India Bhutan Foundation which was established in 2003, whose only mandate is to promote cultural exchanges between the two countries. Indian community, so approximately 60,000 Indian nationals live in Bhutan. Okay, so that forms almost somewhere 20% of the population of Bhutanese, and they are employed mostly in the hydroelectric, power construction and road industry. All right, and in addition, almost daily 8,000 to 10,000 workers exit and enter Bhutanese border towns, because the borders with Bhutan are open. You can anytime go and visit Bhutan. You just need a small permit and you need to pay a fee of approximately 1,500 to enter into Bhutan. So Bhutan actually charges a pay of 1,500 to all the tourists to maintain its natural climate, and to charge it charges the tourists so that they do not disturb the natural fauna and flora of the country and to preserve its biodiversity. However, daily 8,000 to 10,000 workers actually exit and enter the border of Bhutan from Indian side. It has a multilateral partnership. Both India and Bhutan are founding members of SAARC, as I've already told you, and also founding members of the BIMSTEC or Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. I've already talked about it in my foreign policy lectures in lecture 2 and 3. So you can go and visit that. I've talked about in detail. And Bhutan is also a part of the multilateral initiative which is called Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal, the BIBIN initiative. Alright, so it has recently become a part of that also. Now, what is our area of concern with Bhutan? Guys, any doubts so far? Because we are at the closing end of our lecture. Any doubts so far? Anything that you want to ask? I'll take a pause here. Anything that you want to ask? Because our relationship with Bhutans are very, very consolidated. So there's not much to speak. So it's a short session today. And in the end, I'll obviously go back to the first slide and cover it for Jatin. So any doubts so far? Or I'll continue. So you can see here what has actually strangely happened. In 2016, the Bhutanese people actually visited China. Chinese welcomed them and they said, we'll sit together and we'll actually sort out our border issues and we'll become very, very close. Bhutan wanted to do that to balance Indian influence in Bhutan. Now, 2017, the Doklam crisis happened and China actually had to recede or move back to its own positions. It could not do anything in Doklam despite a 73-day standoff, similar to what has happened recently in the Galwan Valley, when after so much manipulations, China had to finally move back. In fact, yesterday satellite images came in. Okay, Jatin, I'll just go back to the previous slide. So even the satellite images recently came in. China has moved back to its territory and so has India, but India is keeping a close eye, and all the international relations or all the international community is actually supporting India. So right after the Doklam crisis in 2017, you can see they are again meeting in 2018, and this time if you see the scenario, here they are meeting in China. Now here the Chinese envoy has actually come to Bhutan. So after being segregated or after losing out Doklam to India in 2017, China again came to have friendly relations with Bhutan and said, "Oh, forget whatever has happened and let's come back together again." But this time Bhutan was a little bit cautious and it did not give much leeway to China. But this constant Chinese closeness or Chinese checkers that keeps on going on in Bhutan has been a cause of concern for India. So I'll just take you to the previous slide. Jatin, in the multilateral partnership, we are there in SARC, we are there in BIBIN or Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, and we are there in BIMSTEC, alright, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. The Indian community presence in Bhutan is very huge. Approximately 60,000 people or Indian nationals live in Bhutan, and approximately 8 to 10,000 daily workers enter and exit Bhutan every day from the border towns back in India. So they keep doing the Bhutan and India to and fro. Alright, the borders are very open that ways. Alright. Next, let's come to areas of dispute. So first we will start what actually happened between China and Bhutan so far. So there is a border dispute between Bhutan and China. Alright. So starting from Doklam in west, the border dispute goes along Gamochin, Batangla, Sinchela down to Amochu. All these are disputed sites, especially the Doklam Plateau is a disputed site between China and Bhutan. In fact, the disputed area in Doklam covers 89 square kilometers and the total disputed area is approximately to the tune of 289 square kilometers between Bhutan and China. Now, Bhutan actually closed its borders with China after the Tibetan uprising in 1959 when China gobbled up Tibet and a lot of Tibetan people came as refugees to Bhutan. So to forbid any more refugees coming from Tibet, Bhutan completely closed its borders with China. However, after India's defeat in 1962 war, Bhutan's fear of China was raised and it lowered its confidence in India. So then, as I already told you, between 1950s to 1972, especially after 1972, Bhutan started asserting itself. And in 1974, as a symbolic overture towards China, Bhutan invited the Chinese ambassador in India to attend the coronation of Jigme Singye Wangchuk as the king of Bhutan, the third king of Bhutan. So the Chinese ambassador was invited to the coronation ceremony. Yes, Jitendra, India was a founding member of SARC. In 1984, alright, in fact, SARC was found during the time of Indira Gandhi. Jatin, go and watch the first 2-3 videos. I've covered that there in detail. How SARC was actually raised in 1985 during the time of Indira Gandhi. So just before she was assassinated, she became the founding member of SARC. Alright. In 1984, so along the lines of UN and along the lines of other meetings, China and Bhutan began annual direct talks over the border dispute. They said, enough is enough, let the bygones be bygones. We actually want to solve it. So they decided to have annual direct talks over the border dispute. And in 1998, they ended up signing a bilateral agreement for maintaining peace on the border along the Panchashil principles. Alright. So even though they are interacting on their own, they are utilizing the Panchashil principles which were given by India during the 1951 treaty that we signed with Tibet. So the Panchashil principles were given by Nehru during this treaty that we signed with Tibet in 1951. Now, on 13th November, however, in 2005, right after 3-4 years, China cannot contain itself from doing all those of jugglery at the border, right? It has it's a child which has attention deficit disorder. It just can't sit calmly. So in 2005, Chinese soldiers actually crossed into disputed territories between China and Bhutan and started building roads and bridges, right? Just like what they did in Doklam. They came into Doklam, started building roads and bridges. I don't know what actually overcomes China that all of a sudden it comes under this thing that it can go and do anything in anybody else's boundary. You know, trespassing is very common for China. So again, Bhutan realized its mistake, came back running to India, and in 2007, Indo-Bhutan Peace Treaty was renegotiated and signed. That was the 1949 treaty that was renegotiated and signed. Finally, on 11th August 2016, again, Bhutan also keeps playing on the Chinese checkers. Whenever it feels threatened by India, it goes and runs to China. So they again ran to China in 2016, just as when our Prime Minister had visited them in 2014 and in 2015 to actually open that Dangechu hydropower plant. Right after that, in 2016, they went to China. Now, it was very disheartening for India at that point of time that despite doing so much, they keep on running back to China. They ran back to China, and both sides showed strong commitment to actually work in various areas and cooperate in various areas apart from the border to settle their boundary issues finally. And again, China finally again disrupted the trust of Bhutan, and in 2017 the Doklam crisis happened. Now let's study the Doklam crisis in detail. Now here is a famous cartoon for you. It will actually help you understand this better. Why India plays a big role in Bhutani politics or in Bhutanese foreign affairs. This is Bhutan and this is China during the Doklam crisis. Even if it just pulls the string, Bhutan obviously cannot stand on its own. So Bhutan immediately asked India to come and do the heavy lifting, and then Modi stepped in, and then it's an equal tug of war that happened in Doklam, and Bhutan just got strung along with India. So it's a very, very funny cartoon which actually explains the Doklam crisis in detail. Also, as you can see, China has a very bigger plate or very bigger economy. So all these plates here in the cartoon actually indicate the size of economy. And you can see a lot of greens on Bhutanese plate indicating the lot of biodiversity that happens in Bhutan. And you can see a monk sitting here. Alright. But it's actually the Prince Wangchuk. So at that point of time during the Doklam crisis, China actually went on and tried to snatch Doklam away from Bhutan. So that's when Pradhan Mantri Modi actually holds Chinese hands and says, your behavior is shameful. And Chinese says, your behavior is shameful to Modi, and then say, how can you actually stop me from stealing from Bhutan's plate? And as Nepal and the other neighbors keep on looking up at India and China fighting over Doklam, and Bhutan is, can you see the surprise look on Bhutan's face, that Bhutan is so surprised, why is China doing what it is doing? So this is a very, very interesting cartoon that we have here. Let's move on to Doklam crisis in 2017. So on 16th June, Chinese troops actually came in with their construction vehicles and road building equipment and began extending existing roads southward on the Doklam Plateau. I will show you where the Doklam Plateau is. So this is the Doklam Plateau. This is Indian boundary. Alright. This is the tri-junction between India, China and Bhutan. And this is the Doklam Plateau. It is way ahead, way in the interior of the Bhutanese territory. So it is where that China made its incursions and entered with its all road building machinery. It started building the roads here southwards into Bhutan. Alright. This is the Doklam Plateau in inside, and the Hasimara Air Force Station. So Hasimara is in West Bengal. It's the closest Air Force station that India has with Bhutan. Now, Doklam Plateau is this area is a disputed state. I will just show it to you again. So where is Doklam in Bhutan? So you can see Doklam is very, very close to the Sikkimese area. Alright, here it is Sikkim. Alright, this is Sikkim. This area is Sikkim. This is the tri-junction point. And this is Doklam. So Doklam is very close to the tri-junction point. And the larger picture of it is here. So as per China, alright, as per China, the tri-junction should be here at Dokla or the Dokla Pass, which is at the tri-junction of India, Bhutan, China. As per India, the tri-junction should be here, the Batangla. This should be the tri-junction between India, China and Bhutan. So China actually made inroads into this pass. So actually what India did, because there is a confusion in the recognition of boundaries, so I will just explain it again. China thinks that this should be the tri-junction, so it wants to extend the boundary till here, because as you can see, this entire area is actually claimed by China and it lies in Bhutan and including Doklam Plateau. So if it actually wants this entire area, the point of tri-junction actually shifts from this red point on the map to this blue point. So China says this should be the tri-junction and Doklam Pass should actually belong to China. However, India says that no, this entire boundary is historically been with Bhutan, so it still remains with Bhutan, all right? And this red point is the actual tri-junction. So when the Doklam crisis happened, Indian army actually went through the Doklam Pass to China, all right? It crossed that pass, went to China, went to Doklam Plateau and defended the Bhutanese interest in Doklam Plateau. Now, let's study a little bit more in detail. So on 16 June, China entered the Doklam Plateau region, which is here. This is the Donglan region, all right? It entered here, started building its road and all those things. Now, as you can see, it's a very strategic position. It's very close to the tri-junction, all right? And this Chumbi Valley, it's a Tibetan region, so it is also under a lot of dispute. Both Bhutan and Tibet actually claim their sovereignty over the Chumbi Valley. Now, you will ask me, ma'am, why China actually has a dispute in Doklam, or why does China consider any boundary disputes with Bhutan? Now, interestingly, in the very ancient past, Bhutan was a part of the Tibetan kingdom. Now, once China right now, the Chinese expansionist policy, whether it be with India or with Bhutan or any of its neighbors, is based on its very, very ancient past. All right. So, China wants to actually gain control of those areas back again. Now, Bhutan says it's very strange. Bhutan says British never tried to make us include us in their Indian territory. They recognized our sovereignty. India has recognized our sovereignty. Tibet never actually tried to rule us. Then who are you? China says, since the ancient past, you have been a part of Tibetan kingdom, and now since we already have Tibet, we also want you. So as per the latest Chinese expansionist policies, they not only want Bhutan, they also want Sikkim and Nepal to be a part of China, just like they were in the past, very, very, very ancient past. So that is the reason China is having boundary disputes with Bhutan, especially in the Doklam region. I hope it is clear now. Now, 16 June they entered, and on 18th June, around 270 Indian troops actually entered Doklam. So they went through the Bhutanese territory. They entered with weapons and bulldozers and stopped the Chinese troops from constructing the road. On 29th June, Bhutan formally protested to China against the construction of road in the disputed territory. Say you cannot unilaterally change the status of the disputed territory. On 5th July 2017, Chinese government said that since the last 2 years, we don't have any boundary dispute with Bhutan. All it wanted to say that Doklam is not even a disputed territory because it actually belongs to China and Bhutan has already agreed to it. So there's actually no dispute. So when it made that kind of statement internationally, it actually threw everyone back, including India, that what are these people talking? Everybody in the world knows that Doklam is a disputed territory. Finally, on 19 July, China said India should back off. However, India stood there and India did not back off. And finally, on 28th August, both India and China announced that they agreed to pull their troops back after 73 days of standoff. All right. And peace was restored on the border, which was recently disturbed by the Galwan face-off, which I've already discussed in a separate video. Now, why is this tri-junction very important to us? First, it is actually related to Sikkim, which is an India territory. It is also related to the Siliguri corridor, this chicken neck. This is the Siliguri corridor, right? This is our access to the northeastern region. So if China comes till here, it will be a huge, huge security threat, not only to the Siliguri corridor, but also to the entire northeast and to mainland India, because it's a very, very strategic position. The Doklam Plateau, by its very name, is a higher up position in the mountains. So anybody who occupies Doklam Plateau is at a strategic advantage. Why we could actually throw Chinese out of the Doklam Plateau? Because we were on the Doklam Plateau, we were at a higher stage, so we could actually push back the Chinese. But if Chinese, God forbid, get control of this region, it will be of strategic disadvantage to us. All right. Now, that is what I wanted to show you. So when Doklam crisis started, China was this huge and was asking us to leave Doklam. But we did not budge. We said, what the hell are you doing in Doklam? It's a disputed territory. You cannot change the status overnight. So then the dragon actually relented a little bit and became a little bit smaller. It still said, you cannot shake People's Liberation Army. Move from Doklam. We still were very confused. Why is actually China doing this? It's so funny. And finally, the dragon relented. It says, now at least peace gets scared from us and let's actually, retract on the boundaries. So it became a fireless dragon. It's a very, very funny cartoon. It actually helps us understand the Doklam crisis in a better manner. That's why I included it here. So what is the way forward? Guys, any doubts so far? Are we clear? Any doubts? Are you enjoying the session, everybody? Okay. So in the way forward, India actually needs to step its efforts to publicize that, okay. So recently, Bhutan actually feels that even the hydroelectricity power projects that we sign up with Bhutan are much to the advantage of India rather than to the Bhutan, right? Just like a feeling that Nepal has. I will like to take you back to the first slide here. That is here. So we have a huge area compared to Bhutan. Bhutan has a 699-kilometer boundary with India, and that boundary is manned by SSB or Sashastra Seema Bal. As you can see, the population of Bhutan is only 75.7 lakhs. It's the least population-wise sparse country after Maldives in the region, and it has a GDP only of $2 billion, and its human development index is also very low at 134, slightly beneath India. Now, India being a huge neighbor has been a concern for all its neighbors, including China also, because India's huge size actually adds to its benefit to counter Chinese dominion in the Asia Pacific region. Yes? So with that, Bhutan, just like other countries, be it Myanmar, be it Nepal, be it Bangladesh, has its own concerns regarding India's size and influence in the entire Indian subcontinent. So it keeps on, having this faith or this lack of faith in India that, whatever treaties or whatever trade agreements it signed with India, it does not actually benefit it. However, if you talk about it, it is actually not true. The Treaty of 1972, the renegotiated Treaty of 2007, all of them actually work in favor of Bhutan. And in fact, the treaty signed in 2006 to actually import hydroelectricity from Bhutan also works in the favor of Bhutan. So let's come back here. India actually needs to tell Bhutan that, look, you get a lot of favors from us and you benefit a lot from us. So it's like a proto-cooperation state for you. In fact, not even proto-cooperation, it's a commensalism. Commensalism or amensalism state for you. Not amensalism, but commensalism. Both are benefiting, none are being harmed. Alright? And commensalism especially because you are more benefiting from the relationship than India is. For India, you are a security concern. We have to go and fight for you. We also provide you a lot of aid. So you are actually benefiting from us a lot, and India needs to make that clear to Bhutan. Also, recently, India is also exploring other areas other than hydropower to cooperate with Bhutan. And we have recently decided to set up ISRO's ground station in Bhutan. That's a very welcome step. So that will actually help Bhutan in providing weather-related messages to its far-flung areas. In fact, I'll tell you a very interesting thing. You know, who are the teachers in Bhutan? Who goes around and teaches in Bhutan? A lot of people, a lot of Indians actually go and teach in far-flung areas of Bhutan. And recently in January, they were called by the present king of Bhutan to Thimphu, and they were awarded for their yeoman services to Bhutan and educating people of Bhutan. So people who had completed 40 years of teaching or 50 years of teaching into Bhutan, they were called to the kingdom of Bhutan, or they were called by the king of Bhutan to Thimphu, and they were felicitated there. So that's another interesting area where we cooperate with Bhutan. Yeah, that's what I talked about, Navakiran. That the reason why they keep intruding, China keeps intruding into other territories is, I have talked about it in detail between when I was talking about India-China relations. So I would want you to go and watch that video because I've explained that in detail. What is Chinese design? Why is it doing what it is doing? But briefly, in ancient past, China had a very, very glorious ancient past, just like India had. And China had a huge territory. So Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim were actually part of China in the very ancient past. So it wants to reclaim its ancient past, and that's why it goes on around trying to reclaim its old territorial boundaries. All right? Sorry, meaning of what? Can you please elaborate? I'm not understanding your question. Also, now India should actually, along with telling Bhutan that what we are doing for you, India should actually refrain from interfering in Bhutan's domestic matters as much as possible, and should only act as a mentor as what it did when Bhutan was trying to democratize itself. It should also let know Bhutan that your safety from border from China, it is only India that can guarantee your safety of borders from China or your safety from India. So you should work together with us on this issue. You should not leave us in midway like you have been doing in the recent past. You should actually cooperate with us more. And finally, there should be regular high-level visits from both the sides. Now, this picture, as I'm talking about high-level visits, this picture is from 2014 when our Prime Minister actually visited Bhutan as the very first nation when he swore in, and Bhutan was also there present in the swearing in ceremony of India. Jatin, I've already covered the first slide. I moved back past to it and covered that first slide. All right. You're welcome, Ashish. I hope the session was very helpful. So guys, I'm also running a prelims mock test series session at 8:30 p.m. every alternate day on Unacademy. It's a free for all session where we do prelims current affairs question, and I teach you tips and tricks to solve the prelims question. All right, it's a very, very interesting session. I've got a huge, amazing response for that session. It's a 1 hour long session every alternative day on Unacademy. You can follow me on Unacademy to know the exact schedule of those sessions. The next session, however, is scheduled for 11th of July at 8:30 p.m. in the evening on Unacademy. You can follow me and enroll for that session so that you will get all the notifications for it. This is my Telegram group for current affairs, and this is my Telegram channel for current affairs where I post all my incoming or upcoming videos, and I also post some important information that it might be required for you. Also on the group you can directly interact with me, and on the channels you can follow me for my lectures on Unacademy and on YouTube. Obviously, a lot of people are watching my lecture right now, so you've liked the video. Please hit the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Let's crack UPSC CSE in English with Unacademy, and hit the bell icon for notifications. If you have liked the video, please comment on the video and share on the video with as many friends as you can. Thank you, Navakiran. I love to have all of you as my students, and use my code SBUS to get an instant 10% discount on your subscriptions with Unacademy. Along with the subscription, you also get my personal mentoring. All right. You're welcome, Ashutosh. So with the subscription that you sign up with for us, all right, which makes your cost less than 40,000 a year and less than 58,000 for 2 years, you also get my personal mentoring with that UPSC subscription for free. So I will be your personal mentor in your journey towards civil services. Thank you, Amit. With that, I'll close for today's session. Be there for my Unacademy session on 11th July at 8:30 p.m. It's going to be a very, very interesting session. We are covering all the current affairs there. With that, I'll close for today. Thank you and have a very good day.